Good evening, you guys. Your boy Ben Mahari here, representing MehariNation Sports Podcast. Welcome to episode 45 of Basketball Conversations. This is going to be our new time. As I said on my community post, this is going to be our new time, Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. I'm actually going to be entering radio school in a few weeks, so I'm going to be pushing my show to Saturday nights now to try to accommodate my work schedule. But much of the entire LDBC and the entire basketball community, I hope you guys had a really good holiday and a good New Year. Thank goodness 2020 is finally over with. I cannot tell you how happy I am that 2020 is finally history, and hopefully things will be a little better in 2021. I try to be optimistic as best I can, but sometimes you got to be a realist about certain things. You know what I'm saying? So I see my two loyal people in here, Brandon Nicholson, and we see Damon Preacher in the building. What's going on, What's going on, brothers? Good to see y'all. You know what I'm saying? So I want to personally say that we finally made over to 1,000 subscribers, and before the end of the year, and eventually I'll get my monetization, soon enough, whenever it comes over. But we're not going to dwell on it too much. We got some, stuff that we're going to talk about. We're going to spend at least about an hour, on the show. So let's get down to business here, shall we? So unfortunately, we got some, sad news coming out of the NBA today. As I post this up real quick. Sadly, the basketball world witnessed the death of Paul Westfall today at the age of 70. For those of you guys who don't know who Paul Westfall is, most of you old school heads know him for his time with the Phoenix Suns as the coach, but he was actually a really good basketball player. Basically from USC. He was basically born in Torrance, California. You know what I'm saying? During his time with USC, he played basically as a shooting guard position, and he basically helped the Trojans with their win loss percentages by leading into a 24-2 record during his time at USC. He was also an All-American. He was a team captain, and he averaged 16.9 points per game. And then in this next year, in 72, he led the Trojans in scoring, averaging 20 a game. Then, when he went into the NBA, he was chosen 10th overall by the Boston Celtics. He spent about 3 seasons with the Boston Celtics, winning a championship in the 1974 season before ultimately being traded to the Phoenix Suns for 2 second-round picks and also for Charlie Scott. And it was during that time in Phoenix where he really made a name for himself, where he basically helped the Phoenix Suns reach their first ever trip to the NBA Finals back in 1976, and was part of one of the greatest games ever played in that famous Game 5 of the 76 Finals, where it went into triple overtime, and he played a significant part of that history. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to dwell too much on the plays, but I will try to maybe talk about that a little bit more on a historical perspective video on that 76 series if you want me to. Um, he was a 5-time All-Star from 1977 to 81. He was first team All-NBA in 77, 79, and 1980, and his number 44 was retired by the Phoenix Suns. Ultimately, he basically played for Seattle, New York, and then basically retired as the Phoenix Suns in the 83-84 season. Then after that, he basically started his coaching career in 1985 at Southwestern Baptist Bible College, now that's named as Arizona Christian University, located in Phoenix. Then, after basically 3 years in the college rankings, he became an assistant coach in the Phoenix Suns under legendary coach Cotton Fitzsimmons, and then ultimately in 1992 he succeeded Fitzsimmons as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, and this is where his reputation and his legacy kicked into another gear. It was that 92-93 season when the Phoenix Suns acquired Charles Barkley, and with guys like Kevin Johnson, Dan Marley, rookie Richard Dumas, Danny Ainge, what I'm saying, Mark West, Frank Johnson, Tom Chambers, and them guys, they went on to win 62 regular season games, to pretty much the most by a rookie coach, and it ultimately led the Phoenix Suns to the NBA Finals, where they eventually lost to the Chicago Bulls in 6 games. So during his 4 seasons with the Phoenix Suns, he won 62 games in 93, 56 games in 94, '94, and then 59 games in 1995 before ultimately being removed halfway through the '96 season. Then he ultimately spent 3 seasons in Seattle, and then 3 more seasons in the late 2000s with the Sacramento Kings before ultimately retiring from coaching. Um, Unfortunately, you know, he went through brain cancer early in August of 2020, and ultimately he died of what's it called? I forgot what it was. It was an advanced form of brain cancer, but he basically died today after his long battle, with brain cancer. You know what I'm saying? And he was very much well respected by the Phoenix Suns organization, by the fans, and by many of the players that he played with, and also by the players that he helped coach during the '90s. So R.I.P. to Paul Westfall, a great man, and he was also enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Um, Back in 2018 as well. And so RIP to Paul Westfall, probably one of the greatest coaches in Phoenix Suns history. Condolences to him and his family. Just another tough blow to the NBA, man. We've lost a lot of people this year. So, but it is what it is. Let me check out the chat real quick. We got Woke into the building. What's going on, brother? And the lovely Tate Brown. Girl, I'm not gonna say what I really want to say right here, but you were looking real dirty today. I'll tell you. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. OG Eric in St. Louis, what's going on, brother? Welcome, man. So yeah, it's been a really tough 2020, guys. I mean, we've lost a lot of good people in 2021, and I cannot recall to you the amount of people that we lost this year as we look back in 2020. People like David Stern, like Clifford Robinson back in August, and then John Thompson, the OG, and then ultimately the biggest one of all was obviously Kobe Bryant back in January 26th of 2020. Nobody saw this coming. Literally, it was just one of the most unexpected things you could ever, see ever. And that's gonna haunt me for a very long time. I mean, he should be living his life right now with his family and his wife, with his children and all that. He should be, doing, storytelling and basically moving on to the next best thing in his life. But off of one bad helicopter crash, everything was taken away from him. Everything. All right. You know, his daughter was with them was with them, in the helicopter and died with him too. It was tough, man. I mean, I I remember sitting in my recliner and just just minding my business, and then I got a notification, from the OG Jicket TV, salute to him, basically saying, Kobe's dead. And at first I didn't believe it because I thought there's no way. It can't be possible. But then, TMZ reported it, and then ultimately CNN reported it, ESPN reported it, and I was like, no way. This can't be. And it was and basically it was true. I mean, for weeks, it was the worst thing that could ever happen. It's like almost an equivalent to what happened to several great athletes. Like I know Dale Earnhardt, was a terrible tragedy. Roberto Clemente back in the '70s, Thurman Munson, you know, those kind of people. I mean, the magnitude of his death was so shocking all over the world, and you know it's gonna really haunt me for pretty much a long time. We're gonna be talking about this for the next 20 to 30 years from now. You know what I'm saying? It was just pretty much a sad, tragic time, for all of us. RIP to all those people that basically passed away in 2020. Kobe Bryant, Jerry Sloan, Clifford Robinson, John Thompson, and even Lute Olson of Arizona, just to name a few. It's a laundry list, but RIP to all those people that lost their lives in 2020. And the only best thing we could do is just pay respects to all what you've done for basketball on and off the court. So rest in peace. I see my brother Gideon in the building. What's going on, man? And Bakari King is in the building too. Salute, brother. Happy New Year, man. You too as well. So With all that out the way, now we're going to get into the real business at hand here, guys. So, I want to get my rocks off about the LA Clippers. And I'm going to post a picture right here now. What one particular player that's been really has been on my nerves. And that is Mr. Paul George, the same script of the Clippers. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Gideon, I'm going to get to that in a second. But let me just get this off my chest here, guys. Just about a week ago, the Clippers played the biggest stud I have ever seen ever when they basically fell behind by 50 points at halftime and lost by a whopping 51 points. You understand what I'm saying? Literally the worst beating I have ever seen from a really good team ever against the Dallas Mavericks. And don't get me wrong, the Dallas Mavericks are a pretty good team, but their defense is not really as what it should be. But my point is this. This is the kind of inconsistency that I keep seeing from these Clippers every single time they play. And you know what really starts from? That man shooting the basketball, Mr. Paul George. I'm telling you right now, you guys, don't ever put Paul George in the same stratosphere as a superstar because this guy keeps laying the bed every single time he performs. His lack of effort and leadership is driving me crazy. And you know what the worst part about this, guys? He missed 16 of his 22 shots against the Utah Jazz. All right, while still scoring 25 points, he missed 16 of his 22 shots. Like, if you're meaning to tell me that this guy is supposed to be your sidekick, you're supposed to be one of your co-stars of an LA team, are you serious, dude? Get that out of my face. All right. The Clippers should be at least 5-1. They're 4-2 right now. All right. So there's still plenty of time for them to really turn the ship a little bit. But here's the thing. Don't ever put this guy in the same stratosphere as a superstar because he lacks three important things: desire, accountability, and leadership. The three big things that he lacks more than anything else. And Brandon Nicholson put it right on the dot. He said, to me, this showed a lack of effort and leadership. Exactly. Because the one thing that is really irritates the hell out of me when it comes to Paul George is the excuses and the lack of effort that I see on the basketball court. We saw that in last year's playoffs. All right, when they blew that 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets. This guy was MIA in those last three games. All right. They are just a model of inconsistency. And if the Clippers don't get it done this year, trust me when I tell you, there's going to be some big changes going to happen with the Clippers. All right, either they're going to have to rip apart the roster or trade the two co-stars. Those are the two likely scenarios I can see right now. All right. The problem that I'm seeing with the LA Clippers is they're not consistent enough. They're literally not. They are just not that consistent. And when you don't have that kind of consistency on the basketball court, you're going to have problems. You are certainly going to have a lot of problems, you know, every single night that you play because everybody knows that you're talented, sure, but you go through peaks and valleys a lot on the floor. And it just absolutely drives me insane with these guys. This is why I'm telling you right now, Paul George is pretty much on. He's pretty much you got pretty much his case is going to be put out there from this point forward. And I'm glad that there's a lot of people out there that are basically calling him out on his lack of effort and his lack of desire. You know what the worst part was? After they got blown out by 51 points at the hands of the Mavericks, is when he had that press conference when he pretty much said, "It's not a big deal that we lost by 51 points." What? Are you serious? Are you really serious? You mean to tell me that getting blown out by 51 points is not a big deal? What? Woo. Lord help me, man. Lord, listen, I'm no religious person, but Lord, you, oh my God. Lord, I'm going to choke this man. You know why? Because this guy drives me insane with his lack of effort. Literally insane. And I can't take it anymore. I literally can't. And I hate to say it, LVZ, you were right. You was right all along, dating back to last year, that you were never sold on the Clippers because of that inconsistency right there. And it starts from Paul George. I don't have an issue with Kawhi at all because there's nothing you can do with Kawhi's injuries. It's pretty much going to be long term at this point. But Paul George, don't ever put this man as a superstar ever again. He- Call me when he gets it done in the postseason. That's all I'm going to tell you at this point. So let me go ahead and check out the chat real quick. Gideon says Clippers are up and down. Bakari King says Paul No Hard George. Yup. Brandon Nicholson says the Clippers need a playmaker desperately. They really missed the bus with Rondo. They could even use a Kyle Lowry right now. Somebody, all right, somebody that could pretty much create plays to really help Paul George and Kawhi get better shots because their offense is way too stagnant to me. Gideon says PG doesn't show passion and leadership. Yup. Brandon Nicholson says losing by 51 points is a huge deal. You got that right. Listen, if I lost by 51 points, I'm basically ripping somebody's head off and then just pretty much said, I'm gonna see y'all in practice tomorrow, and somebody is gonna be crying afterwards. That's what I would have been doing if I was Paul George. Bakari King says, once these guys get these big contracts, they start getting lazy. You took the words right out of my mouth, man. That's what I'm seeing from Paul George. Ever since he's got that contract extension, it's nothing but pure laziness from this guy. And I'm starting to think right now that he's pretty much literally robbed the Clippers bank of pretty much at their salary cap. And they're gonna pretty much have to deal with it for pretty much for a while, unless if they decide to trade him. And trust me, there's still gonna be some teams that will take a chance on Paul George. But the superstar that you pretty much saw in Indiana, that ship has sailed a long time ago. This is pretty much who he is at this point. So don't expect a lot from Paul George at this point, and don't expect for me to have any sympathy for this dude because I really, at this point, I don't have any for him, none whatsoever. So that's just pretty much my 2 cents on it. Gideon says Clippers don't show accountability. They don't. They literally don't. None whatsoever. They pretty much believe in their too much of their own hype, and when something goes wrong, they don't take any accountability for it. They have to make excuses all the time, and you can't win that way in the NBA. You simply can't. All right. Brendan Nicholson says, "I think PG robbed the Clippers when they traded him for him a season ago. Right? They gave up way too much. Hey, that's what I'm thinking too. That's what I'm honestly thinking at this point. Honest, honest to God, I'm thinking about the same thing that you're thinking about." So, with that being said, I want to talk about another disappointment in mine. Oh, Bakari King says, at least James Harden gives effort. Paul George don't even try, shaking my head. I'm gonna say my stuff about James Harden in a minute here. But you're right in your assessment. You're right. But I want to talk about, one of the most disappointing teams, of the NBA thus far this season. Okay. Now, I didn't expect, the team to pretty much do well at this point because they're pretty much as a team is a pretty mess. But I wanted to particularly talk about you know the Washington Wizards and pretty much figuring out what is wrong with them right now. Now, prior to yesterday, when they finally won last night, they were basically going off of one. Basically, they were winless. Okay, now it doesn't mean that it's the end of the world now, right? Now we've seen winless teams turn the ship and get to the playoffs. But prior to last night when they finally won, they were pretty much 1-5. All right. And it's not like they were getting blown out, before to start the game. They were actually leading in most of those games, but they pretty much, collapsed in the end and allowed teams to come back. You know what I'm saying? Gideon says Dame, Harden, Russ, and Giannis may struggle in the playoffs, but in my opinion, they do get some effort. PG is mentally weak. Yeah, I got no argument with that, man. What's up, Cowboys for life? Salute, brother. What's going on, man? Yep. Wizards don't execute, and their defense is terrible. Exactly. That's been one of the big problems with the Wizards this year. Their defense has been really lagging. I think right now, when you look at the defensive rating right now, the Clippers right now, as I pull this up, let me pull this up real quick. So, defensive rating right now, in the 5 games, pretty much the defensive rating is pretty much of a 100.5.4, was basically. Wait a minute, hold on 1 second. I just got to check on something real quick. So 2020 right now, they're actually dead last in defensive rating. There you go. That's what I thought. So they're pretty much their defense has been pretty much lacking. Their defense is pretty much during late in games. It's pretty much been their big collapse. But I think one of the bigger problems is that their execution of their half court offense has pretty much been one of their big problems this year. And I don't know how the Clippers can find a way to really fix things now. I think that if they're not using much of the rotation right now. Hugh Hachimura, has his moments, but he's not utilized, effectively. They basically lowered, Von Wagner's minutes. All right, they pretty much reduced minutes of Thomas Bryant and Troy Brown and them guys. So at this point right now, you know, it's still not the way that they can pretty much turn it around is that they need to focus more on the defensive side of the ball. All right, you still got explosive playmakers with Bradley Beal and with Russell Westbrook. All right, the one thing I can never question about Russell Westbrook is that he actually gives out effort every single night he plays. All right, we can never question his effort. Is you just have to question his decision making. But the problem that I'm seeing with the Clippers is they just need cohesiveness on the defensive side of the ball. If they don't get, if you listen, I don't care how many points you score every single night. If you can't get stops on the defensive side of the ball, you're not going to win. You're not going to win many games because in a league where offense is at a premium, if you still can't, stop guys from scoring against you, you're not going to win many games. And that's what I'm seeing what's wrong with the Clippers right now. But there's still some time to turn it around. But if you ask me, do I think they'll make the playoffs? I doubt that. I really doubt that. Anything is possible, but I think that they need to really focus more on their defense, their defensive issues, and also their rebounding too. When you let people score at will, late in games, it's like you're really shooting yourself in the foot with all those mistakes. That's just what I see from these Wizards. So let me check out the chat real quick. So we got we got a lot of people coming in. We got Lamont Lane, FIF Sports Debates in the house. What's going on, man? How you doing, man? Welcome to good to see you from you, bro. I finally had a chance to come by, swing by a little bit and give my thoughts on what the Wizards were last night, and they can still turn it around, but they're gonna really need to start kicking things in high gear because in that tough Eastern Conference right now, it's not gonna be easy. I'll tell you that. It's certainly not gonna be easy. So, yep. He said just checking in. Appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming in, bro. I really appreciate it. We got the brother Frank Casson foremost in the building, man. You know what, man? He was at this Frank Casson foremost, bro. I'm gonna tell you this. He's been one of the most, consistent people on my channel. He's been there, since I started the channel when I only had about 400 subscribers back then. And so he always is gonna have a special place, on my channel, bro. Always, he's always gonna be welcome every single time with open arms when he come in here. You know what I mean? But thank you for coming in, bro. It means a lot. It means a lot, man. So that's just what I kind of see, with the Wizards. They can still turn this around, but you know, I think that at this point, it's gonna be tough. It's really gonna be tough. He says, Gideon, you still scared to come get Ether, I see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He said, I don't get Ether, Lamont. I know the game. Well, hey, if you two want to debate, hey, I could set it up and we can make it happen. Or hey, you can come to my channel, you can come to Lamont's channel, and hey, we can set it up, we can make it happen if that's what y'all want to do. So it's always a lot of fun. But with that being said, um, there is one discussion, there is one thing that I do want to talk about, and it's is more on the facts of He said Steph Curry versus AI tonight. Come by or stay in the shadows. You know what, bro? After this show is over, I might stop by a little bit, but I actually have something to say about the whole issue about Allen Iverson. So, yep. Gideon says, I think Curry is better than AI personally. Okay, okay. We got the lovely Fistiana in the building. Hey, girl. Hey. Frank Guy says, I appreciate you saying that, Mahari. I've been busy as of late, though. That's all good. No problem, man. I've been busy, too, myself. That's why I've not been able to do videos as consistently as I've been able to. But, I'll do my best. Fistiana says, hello, Chad. Hey, them ladies, man, I'm telling you. You got a little spicy in there. As Mr. Coach Sheldon Harris said, we was being a little coomsy coons on. Just joking. Just joking. So, with that being said, though, I'm gonna want to move on to the next subject in hand here, guys, and you know, I want to discuss about Mr. James Harden here. Okay, Mr. Harden here. Yes, that's right. The Mr. Beard Man right here. Yes, sir. And I want to ask. I'm going to answer the question of: is James Harden worth the trouble? So, yeah, yeah, you see what it is. I know. Yeah, you know what it is. Now, to make sure I stay focused here before I lose my train of thought. So, the question I put myself out there is that is James Harden worth the trouble of all the things that have been going on, with them in the last couple of weeks? Now, as you guys remember, he did violate, the COVID-19 protocol, which was very stupid of him to do so, along with the DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall and them guys. Now, basically during the offseason, he made his feelings known that he wants to be traded because he felt that the ship has sailed in Houston, which I do understand where he's coming from with that. But you still got to act as a professional at the end of the day. Now, you also have to compound that with the fact of one particular photo here, guys. Now, I'm gonna make sure you guys remember to show you this again. Let's take a look. Where's it? Okay. I'm gonna upload that real quick. But my point is that, you know, James Harden right now, Brent, he's on really thin ice with me. And the reason why, one of the reasons why is this. Look at this, guys. Look at this. All that fat on that nice little round belly of his. Look at that. Look at that. Huh? Look at that. Look at that, bro. Like, you start out the season fat and out of shape, right? And we're supposed to, feel like, oh, we're gonna be sympathetic to your feelings. Like, bro, get out of my face with that, right? Now, compounding this to the fact that you've also violated the COVID-19 protocol, right? Which is a very dumb thing for him to do. Then you compound it to the fact that, you know, you become much more of a distraction for, the fans and for the organization, not for the players per se. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that I think right now, if you're the Rockets, if you want to make a trade for James Harden, you better find a suitor that's willing to sell you the bank to get you some assets that you're going to try at least build around. You know what I mean? Listen, I don't believe for a second that I don't believe for a second that you know that the Brooklyn Nets are going to want to deal with the stuff with James Harden because what the Rockets are asking is way too much. You know what I mean? If if James Harden, wants to play this out, he could, you know what I mean, and become a free agent to see what else is out there. But I think that right now, to me, in my view, he's not worth the trouble to deal with right now. Now, he is going to give you, scoring every single night, but he pounds the air out of the ball every single time. And it drives me absolutely nuts. And he hasn't showed up in the postseason. In fact, he's basically throwing the blame to a lot of different people instead of deflecting the blame on himself. And he hasn't learned how to change his game or adapt his skill set to try to make himself a better player. So every single time you watch him play, he's like, bro, you don't need to take about 8 to 10 dribbles to get your shot off. You could, dude. The dude is a powerful force. Okay, you know that he's basically 6'5", rounded up 6'6", and he can post. He can basically set up better shots, but his style of play is not going to translate in championships. It's not. And the late great Kobe Bryant even said that even on his one of his detail shows, because he even noticed that he played this that Kobe was doing the same stuff that James Harden was doing, but he had to learn to adapt to his game. What I mean, to pretty much get the best out of him. That's something that James Harden isn't willing or just hasn't realized that yet. And until he does, he's not going to tap to the full potential that he has. So I think right now, to me, he's not worth the trouble or the headache to deal with here. I would just try to find a way to get the best value out of him and try to get some draft picks or some young assets to try to at least get something out of it. What I mean? It's just not worth the deal with anymore. All right. Gideon says Dame and Harden may be Rip City buddies soon. How do you think that would look? I don't know, man. They both have high volume scores. I don't know if that would work in my view. Brandon Nicholson says, I just pray the Heat don't trade him. Right. Cowboys for Life says, he'll never win the ring with that style of play. It's been proven many times. You got that right. Now we got a little bit of this disagreement for Mr. FYS Sports Debates. He says, how are the Rockets asking for too much? He's the leading scorer in the NBA and one of the best scorers of all time. Listen, I get that, bro, but how many times have we seen? Let me just spread it like this. Like he reminds me of the Atlanta Braves. You know how great they are as a collective team during the regular season. They are a thing of beauty, but once it comes to the playoffs, they get exposed. You know what I'm saying? The deficiencies of basically of the deficiencies of James Harden is that he's not willing to adjust his game when the defenses gets tougher during the postseason. And yes, I'll give you that. I'll give you what his stats are, but sometimes the stats don't always tell you the story. Okay, Lamont, and I know this better than anybody. That James Harden, to me, he just takes too much on himself to try to carry the load when he doesn't have to. All right. And the thing is though, bro, the thing is he just takes way too many shots. He's not efficient. He's not efficient when he's basically on offense. All right. And yes, he's a great scorer, but he's an all-time great scorer? No, I don't see that. Listen, call me when he wins a championship, and then we'll probably discuss that. That's how I see it. He also says if a player ball hogs in the NBA, that's so much more coaching than anything. I agree with you. I actually agree with you on that. I think that with Mike D'Antoni and what he was doing to that offense, he basically allowed James Harden to pretty much do what he wanted. Play basically have him bringing the ball up the court. Allow him to basically take the air out of the basketball and pretty much set up his own shots without any creativity or any flow on the offensive side of the ball. You know what I mean? I think that if he had a better coach that could help utilize his skill set better, he would be a much more efficient scorer. I think he needs to go back a little bit more to his days at OKC when he learned how to play off the ball a little bit more. Can you imagine how if James Harden would have learned how to play off the ball a little bit more? Can you imagine how effective he would be? He would be much more effective in my view. Gideon also says, "Okay, but numbers don't tell the story. Harden can play, but but he doesn't make adjustments, and teams don't know how to. The teams know how to defend him. Right. He also said it's Harden's job to be a high volume scorer. Okay. Gideon also says Harden has only two moves. He has a step back three and a floater. Well, not entirely. He does get to the basket a lot, and he does get to the free throw line. So we have to give him his due on that. He knows how to you know create fouls to get to the free throw line. Even though during the playoffs, the referees are not going to fall for his flopping stuff. He knows his way to get to the free throw line and knows how to create contact when he basically is the only guy making the contact himself against the defender. He also LeBron also said it's not Harden's job to make adjustment. That's coaching. He's not Superman. Blame the team for blame blame the team or for team day failure, not the single player. But at some point, Lamont, listen. At some point, you could listen. Even if you had Phil Jackson as his head coach, at some point you're gonna have to look at yourself in the mirror and realize what can I do? What can I do to adjust my game to make it even better? So that way I can get the most utilized out of my skill set. Because listen, all that stuff that he's been able to do has been working thus far. But has it gotten to a championship, Lamont? I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Gideon says, I guess he dropped 44 on opening night is all step backs. Well, not necessarily. I'm not gonna go that far. That's just his perspective, but I'm not going that far. Look at these guys debating. This is actually fun. Gideon says, "What are you talking about, Lamont? Yes, coaching helps, but the players has to watch the game film and fix their weaknesses." As I agree with that, he says facts. He also said, Lamont also said, then why the world would you ask the best scorer in the league to play off the ball? That's not how the NBA works. Um, let's see who works off the ball. LeBron can work off the ball, all right, at times when he wants to, all right. Curry is capable. Curry can play off the. Curry works off the ball a lot, all right, when he doesn't have to dribble the ball all the time. But he's a point guard, so what can he do about it? Klay Thompson works off the ball. Jimmy Butler works off the ball. All right. Do I have to keep going? Just saying. I'm just saying, Lamont. I'm just saying. Teams don't know how to guard Harden. He's still the leading scorer in the NBA. But it doesn't matter when you don't get it done in the postseason. It doesn't matter. Listen, he could average 100 points a game, but still not win a championship. That's how people are going to judge him. That's what it is, bro. That's what it is. Gideon says when you play off the ball, you can free yourself in the perimeter or get high percentage shots. That's a good point. FYS East also says only about 5% of those players actually win a championship. It's a team accomplishment, not a player accomplishment. I agree with that. But listen. James Harden was the James Harden. Listen, remember James Harden led that Rockets team in 2018 to the most wins in their franchise history. Listen, if it doesn't happen without James Harden, then what the Rockets would be then? You could say yes, championship is basically a part of a team, right? But who is the guy? But who is the guy leading, holding, carrying the load the entire year? It was Harden. Come on, bro. He also said no. LeBron's terrible off the ball. I said sometimes, not all the time. I said sometimes. Curry is the only superstar I can do that. I agree with that. I do agree with that. So he said, I agree with Lamont. You need a team to win a championship. Exactly. So that's just pretty much my 2 cents on the whole thing. So everybody at Sports Ace is when you lose in the postseason, that's a team failure, not a player failure. See, this is where you and I differ on that point because yes, a team is a team failure until losing the postseason. Who? But when the media asks the question like who deserves the blame for all of this, they're gonna look right at the superstar, and it all falls on James Harden. Listen, bro, you can't sit here and say that it's about the entire team. The superstar takes the accountability of the entire team, and yes, James Harden deserves the criticism for not getting it done in the postseason. That's what it is. I don't care if he even averages 100 points a game. If he doesn't know, if he can't lead his team to a championship, what does it say about him as a player? That's just my point. So that's just my point about James Harden. I think that he's just to me as great as he is as a scorer because I'm not taking that away from him. I just think that I just think that to me he's just not worth the trouble in my view. So that just is what it is. Let me drink some water real quick. So we got some more people coming in the building. We got Jonathan McFarland in the building. What's going on, brother? Salute, man. So now I want to discuss about another particular topic here. All right. I want to discuss, about, the coach about the whole discussion about Steve Kerr. All right. Now, I want to give some salute to Raw for TV about his perspective because there were some points that he made about Steve Kerr that I kind of agree with, but the thing that I have been battling in my head over the last couple of weeks is is Steve Kerr an overrated coach? Now, I will say this. I will say this. Do I agree? Do I say that he built the entire Warriors team? No, he didn't. That team was basically built through the smart drafting of the organization and the strong coaching of Mark Jackson. I do agree with that 100%. Now, when Steve Kerr became the coach of the Golden State Warriors, all right, FIS Sports. I hope y'all keep the same energy when I blast all the all-time greats that failed to win a championship. I listen. I blast Charles Barkley for not winning a championship either. You know what I mean? He could have done a lot more. So I keep the same energy with that too. But it's a totally different category. But let's continue on to the next subject here. So, oh, oh no, Jonathan McFarland got. Hold on, hold on. Let me unhide him real quick. There we go. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. It was a mistake. So, okay. Yeah. Sorry, Jonathan. Let me do something for you. Hold on, hold on. There you go. Now you won't get blocked. There we go. That was my mistake. Okay. Back to the subject in hand here. So, now look, I do think that, to me, Steve Kerr, to me, in my view, he's a good coach, but a great coach, that's where I leave it, up in the air. Do I think he's an overrated coach? Yes and no to a certain extent. And here's why. And here's why. Um, I think that Steve Kerr provided, some direction about where the Warriors offense was going to be. All right. Because what I saw from Mark Jackson was even though he did a great job of, instilling the defensive principles that made the Warriors an efficient team on the defensive side, but when you look at, his offensive, game planning, there was too much of the same isolation ball that really, limited the Warriors, offense, right? Now, I think that I think that the other thing too that I think people need to understand is that yes, he had the talent. He had the talent around him to really much make himself look good. Like, listen, I get that, but if you're not a good coach, despite having all that talent around, then that means you're not doing your job. Now, I do think that to me, you know, Steve Kerr, you worked his way up, worked his way up, through the ladder as a player. But I think as a coach perspective, I think he was basically given, basically a silver platter when he became the coach of the Warriors. So I think that, you know, the Warriors to me, I think the Warriors were pretty much fortunate of having the talent, having that kind of talent. But I think that in my view, Steve Kerr wasn't really tested enough as a coach to really, you know, was a can't he can't be a bad coach when you basically have brilliant offensive players. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's overrated. I'm not going to do that because when you have three championships as a head coach, despite having all that talent around you've done something right. So I can't. I'm not gonna sit here and say that he's overrated to me. I will say that you know in in his time, with the Phoenix Suns, he did a really good job as an executive, you know, because helping, putting some good pieces around that team. Even though that him and Mike D'Antoni had a disagreement about, having Tom Thibodeau has his defensive coordinator that pretty much ended their relationship there, which was so petty as hell. But I think that you know I think that right now, the Golden State Warriors right now are pretty much being tested about how the resilient they can be as a team despite not having that much talent anymore. And this is what you get. And this is what you get, Draymond, for basically blasting Kevin Durant. You know what I'm saying? And making and basically convincing him, it's time for him to walk. So, you know, FIS Sports Debate says that he can't be overweighted when you win 3 championships. Impossible. You know, uh, Mark Jackson was a terrible offensive coach. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. Listen, I think Mark Jackson, did a decent job, with the defensive side of the ball. Now, the stuff behind the scenes about Mark Jackson was pretty much despicable, and I still don't understand why he isn't given another chance to coach again because he deserves another opportunity to coach. But but the thing is that his offensive game planning was terrible, was beyond terrible. And I think if listen, a good example of that is pretty much when Draymond Green was pretty much at the end of the bench. All right, if Draymond Green wasn't given a chance to start at this by the Steve Kerr's coaching, I think he would have been out of the league, no doubt in my mind. So I think that he has done his job efficiently, but I think that you know he is going to have to really show, how that he can pretty much get the team, back to ship again. And I think that they will. They got some good young pieces that they can basically, develop now. And we'll see what happens. I'm not giving up on the Warriors yet, and I'm not going to give up on Steve Kerr. That's pretty much what I got to say about that. Excuse me. There we go. FIS Sports says, I guess Phil Jackson was tested with MJ, Kobe, and Shaq. Well, listen, remember, when Phil Jackson instituted the triangle offense through Tex Winter, remember, Michael wasn't sold on that offense. You know that. He thought that the offense was terrible because it basically took the ball out of Michael's hands. But he had to convince Jordan that, listen, you basically ball dominating the entire time wasn't going to get you to win a championship because you got to learn how to trust your teammates. You know what I'm saying? That's just what I think. That's what he had to do. And the same thing would apply with Shaq and Kobe because remember, they would not even learn how to play well together as a team. So y'all know that. So that just is what it is. Johnson says $100 million for a scrub and Draymond. Hey, that's the Warriors' fault. They should have put the 100 mil to convince KD to stay. But hey, what can you say? What can you say? He said, I don't think Draymond's a scrub, but he is a bit overrated. You heard me say about what Draymond is. You know what I mean? I do think Draymond, was good at what he was able to accomplish. Coming out as coming out as a what, a late first rounder, early second rounder. To pretty much what he was able to achieve is phenomenal. But just for anyone to say that he deserves $100 million, I mean that's a bit reaching. That's a bit reaching. David Preacher says Draymond don't produce points, but he did a lot of the dirty work. Yep, he did. He certainly did. He also said, Gideon says, Draymond can scrap, but he's a good defender. He is. He definitely is. So that's just how I kind of see about the whole thing. Now, to pretty much end the entire debate here, and Lamont, I hope you're sticking around for all of this. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Mr. Allen Iverson here. Yes, because apparently some channel said that Allen Iverson was pretty much overrated because he had a low field goal percentage. Let's get this started here. He said, y'all complain about Draymond, but Davis Bertans gets 85 mil for nothing. Hey, listen, Draymond Green ran his mouth and got $100 million basically set on the bench. Come on, Lamont. You know this, bro. You know this. Okay. Gets 80 million on a torn ACL. He said, Gideon said, did you watch last night's game? 0 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. I'll admit, Gideon is overpaid. Yeah, I know. And John Wall will get $2 million with 2 major injuries. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, this is going to be the one to close out the show tonight. So, I'm going to intertwine a bit of the Curry, bit of the Allen Iverson, type of conversation here. Okay, little bit. Okay, here's my view about Allen Iverson. Okay, I think Allen Iverson to me is one of the great scorers in NBA history. All right. I think that for a guy that came in, 6 feet, you know what I mean, and being able to dominate the way he was able to do, you know, it's just phenomenal what he was able to do throughout his entire career as one of the best scorers in the game. And anytime I hear people say that Allen Iverson was overrated because he shot a low field goal percentage, let's get something straight here, okay? The NBA at that time was still levitated to a lot of scoring. All right. Now, when Iverson came into the NBA at that time, okay, pretty much at that time, it was still a big man's league. All right. You still had Alonzo Moore, you still had Shaq, you had Olajuwon, you had Robinson, you had Mutombo, just to name a few. All right. This was still pretty much a big man's league, and you still got Jordan in the mix. All right. Now listen, when Iverson's career, pretty much took off for that period of time here, guys, okay? When you look back in his career, okay, he had to learn how to be a team player. Now, he averaged 23.5 points per game on 41% field goal shooting. That's still great, all right? And keep this in mind. It's not like Allen Iverson was playing with all scrubs here, all right? The thing with Allen Iverson was that he had to be the guy to take all the majority of the shots. All right. And he still had decent talent, around him in the 2001 team with Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, who's a high IQ point guard. George Lynch, who was a very good defender. And then you had, Tyrone Hill, who was a, decent power forward at best. But the, the thing about that '01 team is that, you know, Iverson had to take more of the offensive load because there was no other guy that could pretty much handle that kind of responsibility. It's not like he was a bad. It's not like he was had a bad team or nothing like that. It's just how his team was constructed. Okay. Now listen, if he had another top scorer with him, could he probably would have won a championship? Maybe. But the problem was is that Iverson was too much focused as a top scorer. He was pretty much a two guard, constructed as a combo point guard. All right. Now look, I do agree that there were times where Iverson took too many shots a little bit. But listen, for a guy that basically was 6'5", or about 185, to pretty much dominate the game, what he was able to do during that period of time, throughout his during his what, during his 17 seasons in the NBA is phenomenal. All right, to finish your career with 26 points per game, shooting 42% from the field is beyond phenomenal. All right, and the thing about with between him and Curry is that with Curry, Curry could beat you off the dribble, he could beat you off the ball, and he was a phenomenal accurate shooter. I could say that without hesitation that Curry is more accurate as a shooter than Iverson was. Right now, listen, both of them won MVPs. Right, they both share in common multi-time All Stars, but unfortunately, Curry has the championship hardware. Unfortunately, to what Iverson doesn't have. But you can't say that Iverson didn't play with his heart out. He played every single minute with his heart on his sleeve every night. But I think that to me, it's a toss up. It's more on the lines of who's your favorite and what's your preference. But you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Curry doesn't have heart. You know what I mean? Because listen, you can't be a unanimous MVP if you didn't play with your heart on your sleeve, right? Now listen, I think to me, Allen Iverson is going to go down as a top 40. Is goes down as a top 40 great, players of all time in my view. I think that I have Curry a little bit ahead. I think slightly ahead of Iverson in terms of what he's been able to do throughout his in terms of his career, achievements, but also what his skill set. But Iverson, played with, passion all the time. Same with Curry as well. I think that, I wish Iverson was a bit better in terms of, decision making, during games, you know, not taking too much of the load, but sometimes learning how to, share the wealth and be better of a team player a little bit. But both of them dudes were great players. But for anyone to sit here and say that Allen Iverson was overrated because of his low field goal percentage, bro, that means either you haven't watched basketball or else you're just taking too much of of the stat line and not understand the totality of the whole story. Iverson was playing in a league at the time where still defenses were, constructed was still constructed to make your life hell to try to score. It wasn't until the mid 2000s where they start restricting defenses, where you saw a lot of guys, score at will, and the scoring, you know, increased over time. And so I give a little more of an edge to Iverson in terms of he had to face against better defenses that made him work twice as hard to get his shots off. But it doesn't take away what Curry was good at. You know what I mean? Curry pretty much had to play. You know, he has to play to what his era is given to him, and he's pretty much dominant at what he's been able to do at that particular time. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, you know, Lamont, you got to stop that, bro. Like, so what about hard? Iverson skipped the playoff game because he's out there drinking all night long. That's hard, bro. Cut it out. All right. You see, this is where you and I differ on this one. All right. Listen, it was pretty much during the time when the Sixers were pretty much terrible. All right. He did not skip any playoff games. That's false. That's beyond false. All right. I don't believe. Listen, if you're really gonna say that, then what about the fact? What about the fact that your man James Harden broke COVID rules? You basically gonna give him a pass on that? Just saying. I'm just saying. Now look, I'm gonna put it like this. I have Curry a little bit ahead of Iverson, but it doesn't diminish what Iverson did as a basketball player. So I give the bit of the edge to the bit of the edge to Curry, but I think that they're both two phenomenal players. But my point is, I think that for anyone to sit here and say that Iverson is overrated, you really need to check yourself. You really do. All right, and and the bottom line is, you know, for him to dominate the game, you know, you know, uh, pretty much dominate the game as a 6'1", as a 6 foot, guard. It was phenomenal. Now he did had his, mid flaws. You know, sometimes a lot of times, Iverson was not the best of teammates. And sometimes, feuded with coaches a lot. Just ask Larry Brown, and you're right. You go watch his documentary. I'll rewatch it again. I think I'm. Was it the Netflix documentary? I think it was. I might have to rewatch it again. He said he was a bad teammate, horrible leader on and off the court. Yep, and got bounced in the first round because basically, listen, Iverson was not a point guard. He was pretty much a two guard. So blame the organization for making the trade, but you know you can't pretty much say that Iverson didn't try to make it work, but you had two scores like Melo and Iverson together, but Iverson was not a point guard. That's just not what he was. So I think that he said, what about the narrative that he's better than Wade? Than Dwayne Wade? Iverson better than Dwayne Wade. Wade was way better than Allen Iverson. Way better. Way better, in my view. He said it was against a prime Spurs squad. Okay, okay. So that's just how I feel about the whole thing. Um, hey Lamont, whenever you decide to talk about Iverson again, I'm gonna pull up and we're gonna have a debate about this one. You and me one-on-one debate about this all over again. All right. Whenever you decide to do it again, let me know. I want to debate about this. Definitely. I wanted to piece you on this one. Let me know when that happens. All right. You got my number. All you gotta do is reach out. But that's just my 2 cents about Iverson. You know what I mean? Yes, he feuded with coaches. Yes, he could have made better decisions on and off the court, but you can't take away what he was able to do as a great player. He's still one of the greats in the game. So that's just how I view things. So, with that being said, you guys, My voice is about to run dry here from all this talking. So that's just my that's just my show for tonight, though, guys. It was pretty much of a fun, fun show tonight. I really enjoyed, discussing it with you guys. What I'm saying, make sure to smash. Okay, now Lamont's got something for me. He said, "Hold on, y'all. Blame James Harden for putting up big numbers, and losing, and now you're making excuses about Iverson losing." Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! Hold on, Lamont. Hold on. Let me tell you something. Timeout on the floor for that, bro. I'm gonna eat you on this. James Harden made the NBA Finals, but as a third string player. Actually, no, not third string, as basically the third superstar with with Durant and basically with Westbrook. And you still couldn't win a championship? All right. He said, I'm dropping an Iverson and Kerr video right now. I'm definitely gonna watch that. Yes, right. I'm definitely gonna watch that. I'm gonna listen to everything you're saying. And when we had the debate, I'm gonna be right here front center, and I'm gonna deflect every one of your points. All right. Yes, right. I'm gonna watch your video. I'm definitely gonna watch your video, Lamont Lane. You better believe that. So, but that's just my show for tonight, though, guys. It was pretty much a lot of fun. What I'm saying, but it is what it is. You know, stay safe out there. Hope you guys succeed all your goals in 2021. You know what I'm saying? But I'll be back next Saturday with another show. But I'm gonna continue to drop more videos, along the way. Make sure to smash the like button on the way out too, guys. But I'm gonna watch your video, Lamont Lane, and I'm gonna critique your video when it's all said and done. So that's all right. Hey, you say excuses all is that all I hear? Oh, is that what you think? Okay. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, Lamont. I'm coming for you, buddy. He said, "Can you do a video about black coaches not getting a fair shake in the NBA?" You know what? I might do that. I'm gonna make sure to note that, Jonathan, as your video request. Make sure to I'm gonna make sure to highlight that. Okay, black coaches, not getting a fair shake. Yep, I'm gonna do that for Monday morning. So I'm going to I'm gonna make sure to do that for you, and then do some research before I do that video. So yes, definitely I could do that. No problem for that. So, but that's all for now, though, guys. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure to smash the like button on the way out. But this has been Basketball Conversation right here on this channel. Much love to the entire LDBC and the entire basketball community. I want to give the thanks to all you guys there, and Mr. Lamont Lane. I'm coming for your head, bro, on this Iverson talk. I'll be waiting for you. I'm gonna see your video. Hey, what's up, Lewis Sports Network? He says, salute, bro. I said, I'll catch you the video on the replay. No problem, man. No problem. But that's all for now, though, guys. But thank y'all for tuning in. And I'll see y'all next week. Y'all safe out there. And achieve all your goals for 2021. Have a good night, guys.